Welcome to a brand new series called The Drop, hosted by yours truly. That's right, don't adjust your screens, they've let me out of the podcast studio. So what's The Drop all about? Well, in every episode we look at a particular aspect of angling or a theme with the overall aim to give you loads of entertainment but also loads of information to help you catch more carp. In every single episode, it's packed full of features. There's everything from tips, tackle, tactics, bait, interviews with top anglers, and in every single episode I go in session with a special guest Nash angler too. Now, as it's episode 1, we're going to start in style. It's springtime, we're on the beautiful Whelford Pools Fishery, and I'm meeting up with a man machine, a carp catching machine. It's none other than Super Tom Forman. He's already out somewhere on the complex. Let's go meet up with him. I'll stop waffling. Let's have some fun and maybe, just maybe, snare a Cotswolds carp or two. Super Tommy Forman, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm living the dream, mate. We're out fishing. Where are we, mate, and what are we doing?
We are down at Whelford Pools. Some people will know it. I've fished a bit here in the winter, mainly over the road at Bramble. I've also done a bit on the top lake, actually. But this lake in particular, Willow Lake, I haven't fished before. I know you have.
I've fished it with the family, but the rumour has it, this 12-bed house behind us is yours now, mate, because you fished the other lakes and the complex that much.
So much, yeah.
That it's now your full-time abode, mate. Is that true?
I wish it was, but unfortunately not. But no, this is, we were going to fish the top lake, but when I rang Steve, he said, "Look, there's no one in the booked into any of the houses or either of the houses. If you want to go on Willow, you can do." Of course we do.
We've got lucky, haven't we?
Yeah.
Hot tub.
So we thought we'd have a go on here. There's plenty of fishing here. It's beginning of May, and we're just trying to get a few bites, aren't we?
How are you approaching it, mate? It's springtime, like you said there, early May. What's the score? How are you starting out?
Well, I got here last night, quite late, so I didn't really get a chance to do too much, but I did see some fish straight away. They were everywhere, pretty much. So I just went with my traditional approach, which I love to do, single hook bait fishing. And I managed to catch 2 quite quickly. Small ones, upper doubles, but it was a good start. And I didn't fish last night. I thought I'd reel him in and save some fish for you.
Nice, cheers, mate.
I've just got the rods back out in the last sort of half an hour. A couple of single hook baits. Might introduce a bit of bait later.
Okay.
Not sure yet. We're going to play it by ear. So yeah, I've gone in with my sort of my standard helicopter setups basically. Quite a long boom. A couple of bite pop-ups. Scope it squid yellow. I think I've got one on a yellow, one on a white at the moment. See if there's a colour preference out there. But
nice. And then over the course of the session,
yep.
How might that sort of change, or how might you adjust things? You said there before you might put a bit of bait in.
Yeah.
What would prompt that, mate?
If the fish are holding up in a particular area, the water's quite coloured, so unless they're showing, these fish are going to be quite hard to although there's one just there.
Although there's one, and there's one.
Not far off that hook bait. So it's, like I say, the water's quite coloured, so we need to find where the fish are. If they're jumping out in the same area all the time, and I get a few bites on the singles, then going into the night or the afternoon and evening, I'll have no qualms about introducing a bit of bait. It's another option.
Well, you're sorted.
Yep.
I'm in your back garden, literally, mate, because I've now taken that as your house. I'm going to get some rods right next to you, because we might as well have a decent social while we're here.
Why not?
And basically copy everything you do and hopefully catch a few fish, mate. So I'm going to leave you here and get sorted.
Right.
Cheers, mate. Now, in keeping with the whole session and the time of year, fishing for a bite at a time, and my take on that is instead of using a single hook bait, I'm using a little solid PVA bag. I've seen some fish show to the right of Tommy, and I'm just going to put some bags in the area and hopefully nick a quick bite. Oh yeah. Well, it's happened. Those 2 bags that I put out to the right hand side where there was probably majority of the shows, and the right hander of the 2 has just picked up, and it feels like a steady fish. It's nice to have one on that solid bag, and I am fishing sort of drop off inline leads because I don't really know the weed situation or what's out there. The lead's gone, the fish is on top, and hopefully I can knit it through the other lines and we can land our first one. He's seen you, boy. Bosh. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, but it's a very good start. I'll take it, won't you?
I will definitely take that. Well, as quick as that first bite's happened, the same solid bag in the same area that was left out, didn't even have a chance to retie a bag or put another one out, it's gone. So hopefully, this could be fish number 2 in a very short period of time. And there is number 2, definitely bigger, a good 20. Great fight, unbelievable, from the bite all the way through, rooked around, led me a merry dance, but pays dividends to show. Fishing for a bite at a time with those solid bags where we've seen them show, 2 fish in quick succession. Hopefully, there's a few more to come. Now for me, when it comes to fishing for a bite at a time, a real favourite opening gambit that I have a lot of confidence in, and luckily it's been successful thus far, is a solid bag. It's sort of a bit of a happy medium. If you're fishing single hook baits out there, the difference between that and a solid bag is you have obviously got that added bonus of the pellets and that attraction right round your hook bait. You've also got, presentation wise, your hook bait within the pellets, which helps when you're casting at showing fish, because you've got a little bit of a buffer and some security around your hook bait being presented, and therefore hopefully the fish being able to take your hook and you getting a bite. Now how I like to tie them, especially when I'm not sure about what I'm casting on, is I use a double ring swivel and I fish them on a drop-off inline system. That way, if there are weed beds present and I get a take, I get rid of the lead and I'm in direct contact with the fish as quick as possible. That way I can negate any potential obstacles such as weed that may be in the way as I play the fish in. In terms of the rig itself, I use 3 inches of Armour Link, a supple braided material, so there's plenty of movement. I use a size 6 Nash claw hook, and I always ensure that my hook bait is as responsive, neutrally buoyant as possible. Basically to mimic all the tiny little particles and pellet that go within the bag mix itself. I want it all to be sucked up in one mouthful into the fish's mouth, give me the bite, and hopefully, as it's proved thus far, get me off the mark. I'm as confident fishing solid bags over bait, and if things carry on as they are and fish keep showing in the area, I may introduce some bait later on and fish the same rigs over the top of them. They're a great all-round way of fishing for a bite at a time. They're also great over bait. They're a fantastic method. Enough of me talking, I'm going to go and tie some more just in case the action continues. Now, your rod choice is essential to your angling. Today, we're out here taking a look at the Nash X Series rod range, and we're out with a man who's used them extensively throughout the course of his own angling. He's a Man Mountain, nicknamed the Lake District Carbon Crusher. He's in the swim now, smashing the granny out of the rods as we speak, and I'm going to go meet up with him and talk all things Nash X Series rods. Here he is, the beast. Morning. How are you, mate?
I'm good, are you?
I'm good. I've bigged you up massively here. They're going to think I've got the wrong person. I'm going to clarify this for the cameras right now. How tall are you, Finn?
5'5", 5'6".
And the camera crew have stitched me up because I'm downhill from you, so I look even shorter, mate. But despite the fact that you may lack a little bit of height, you can certainly whack a lead, mate. How far can you stick that lead?
This morning, I've just been casting just under 50 wraps, which is 200 yards. Now, like I say, I'm not a tall guy, but with the right tools and the right technique, you can certainly punch that lead out.
200 yards is an absolute beast of a chuck, mate, regardless of what's going on. Obviously, you use the X Series rods. Yeah. Now, talk to me about performance-wise, what you like about them, why you choose them.
Yeah, so the main reason why I like them, to be honest, is I blank a hell of a lot, and I want to look at a rod that looks carpy on the setup. It's quite a minimalistic look, and to be honest, like I said, when put on the rest, I want to be looking at something that makes me look like I know what I'm doing. So that's the first thing that I like about it. The second thing, especially when long range fishing, is the 50mm butt ring, because it's going to reduce friction when casting. You don't want to be adding friction on the line, as that's going to slow the lead down.
Nice. Performance-wise, mate, for you, when you're looking at it, obviously a lot of your angling, especially places like Linear, for example, the difference between you potentially catching fish and not when it's busy is maybe an extra 10 or 15 yards, isn't it? How do they aid that for you? Is it the action? What is it?
Massively. Like you say, I fish busy day tickets such as Linear, Blue Belt, and especially over the last 18 months, more and more people are getting into fishing, the lakes are getting busier and the fish tend to push out into the central main area of the lake. So I want a tool that's going to be able to cast out that distance. So for 95% of my fishing, I use the 12-foot, 3.5 pound test curve. That's a nice all-round rod, but if I am looking to well it out, like we are here today, 200 yards, I'll opt for this one, the 13-foot, 3.5 pound test curve. It is an absolute beast and it will send that lead flying.
Nice, mate. It's also all the whole range, the 12-foot, the 13-foot that you've got here, and also the shorter 10-foot versions if you're fishing in a boat, for example. They've all got lovely little custom features, like you said. I love the little extra line clip, mate. Looks tarty as. And to be fair, with little additions like that, you'd expect that the cost of the blank would be, custom pricing, high level. But the value is incredible. And when you compare it with the performance, like you're smashing it 50 wraps, it's unbelievable, mate.
100%.
We've waffled long enough. I'm going to take a big step back out the way and let the beast of the Lake District, the Carbon Cruncher, hit that 50
Go on,
wraps, mate.
get off my swim. Nearly 51, 50 and a half wraps. It's a pretty big chuck, to be honest, over 200 yards, and it just shows with the right technique and the right rod for the job, you'll be able to punch that lead to the horizon. So if you're looking for a new rod to improve your distance, look no further than the X-Series range.
When it comes to single hook bait fishing, I will always opt for a helicopter style setup. Most of the time on single hook bait fishing, I'm sort of casting at showing fish or areas where fish might be holding up. And 9 times out of 10, I don't really know what the contour's like or what the bottom's like. So I want a rig that is always presenting. More often than not, I want to get that quick bite. So I don't want to be casting 10, 15 times until I find a suitable bottom, if you like. I want to be 1, maybe 2 casts and trying to get that quick bite. And that lends itself perfectly to a helicopter style setup. The lead on here is a 2-ounce lead on this occasion, again, because I don't want to spook those fish. I want to keep everything nice and light, with minimal disturbance. That is spliced straight to a quick link under there, so the lead is attached. However, the added bonus of our new tungsten top beads means that should a fish become snagged or get cut off for whatever reason, this top bead can easily pop off, meaning the rig can come free under the weight of the lead. I will always opt for a leader if possible. Unless there's a ban on the lake, I will always opt for a Klingon leader. However, if there is a ban on leaders, I'll quite happily fish exactly the same setup, but naked. And we do one of our tungsten beads for a naked version as well. As for the rig itself, this is my sort of version of the Ronnie rig or spinner rig, whatever you want to call it, and this is my go-to rig when single hook bait fishing. 9 times out of 10, I will opt for a stiff boom section. This just allows me to cast onto any contours that are out there and know that I'm presented at any time. Also, if I get picked up by a bird or coot or anything that's out there, the rig will reset itself automatically. I say it's a boom link, but it's actually the 15-pound version of the fluoro link, and it basically covers everything for me. Yes, it's stiff enough to not tangle on a cast, but it's also got that element of suppleness about it. So when I am casting out, if there is a little bit of weed or a little bit of silt, blanket weed, etc., I know it will still be presented at all times. On the end there, I've got a size 4 Fang X. I do love a curved shanked hook, and that's just attached to one of our Ronnie swivels, a bit of shrink tube for protection, and a bait screw, which allows me to easily change hook baits when needed. As for the hook bait itself, I've been going with Scope Squid pop-ups on this occasion, and I've just sort of been flitting between different colours. I've had a yellow out there, I've had a white, I will put a pink as well if I need to. Whatever one's doing more bites, I will switch all 3 rods to that colour. This one's ready to go. I'm going to cast it to a new area that I've not put a bait yet today. I've started seeing a few fish jump in the last hour or so, but I'm not too familiar with the bottom because, like I say, I haven't cast it yet. So what I'm going to do is alter the bead slightly, and that will mean even if there is a bit of weed out there, the lead can penetrate and I will still be fishing at all times. Let's get it out there.
Now, as the day's drawn on, having received action in that area, I'm deciding that I'm going to put a little bit of bait out. I'm still fishing for a bite at a time, so I'm not going to put a lot out, but I'm going to knock up a little mix to put over in the area where I've caught fish from and I've seen them showing. The area itself, having put a lead out there, it's quite silty, relatively soft, but firm enough to present on. And because of that, I'm going to knock up a mix that is designed to put maximum attraction into the area, not too much feed at the same time. I don't want to fill them up, I just want to fish, as I said, gradually for a bite at a time and build on the numbers of fish I catch. Basic constitution of the mix is going to be some oily hemp to start. That's great for getting into the bottom, keeping the fish grubbing around and in the area. Good old golden grain. And then sort of the main bulk of the mix for me is going to be Scopex squid flake. Brilliant, loads of different particles, flutters down, covers the bottom and keeps fish revisiting the area. On top of flake, I am going to put some 12mm Scopex squid boilies, just for some bigger food items, and that will stay in throughout the mix, and also will cover getting down to the bottom quickly, because the spot that I am fishing is roughly around about probably 7 to 8 foot, so a little bit deeper than maybe some of the other areas on the lake. So some bigger items to get down, and then finally some Scopex squid pellet. Carp love pellet, you can't go wrong with it. Into the mix that goes as well. And in terms of liquids, I'm going to add Scopex squid spod syrup, brilliant, sweet smelling, highly attractive, in that goes, and then a little bit of the matching Scopex squid bait soak. I'm going to give that a mix, and the only thing I'll do just before I introduce it this evening is I'll probably trickle a little bit of the pink rock salt in. Really attractive this time of year, pre-spawning, certainly attracts fish and is very effective when added to a spod mix. I'm going to get it out there, probably 3 to 5 spawns at a time. If I start to receive more action, I'll up the bait quantities, but it's a great way of putting a little bit of bait in the area and hopefully concentrating those fish, which will hopefully lead to a few more bites too.
What a lovely end to the day. It's not been easy by any means, but we've kept on slugging away and we've managed to get a few bites between us, albeit a few of the smaller fish, well for me anyway. But I think there's a few more out there. I'm going to try and introduce a little bit of bait now for the night ahead, try and hold them in the area for the night, see if we can't keep them there, get a few bites through the night and into the morning. Hopefully a bigger one will turn up.
Tommy, at the end of the day, a bit of a grueler, but a couple of fish each, yeah?
A couple of fish each, but it feels like...
It feels like a long day, mate, which is what we said before. They were showing, weren't they? But they weren't as sort of free coming on the old rods, were they?
They've definitely been up in the water, as I said earlier, on some sort of hatch or something. But we kept getting bites on the bottom in spells.
Yeah, I sort of had those two relatively early and relatively quickly. And since then, nothing really has showed up there. There's been fish showing further on, sort of where I can't really access them. But as you say, they definitely look like there's been a good number of fish up in the water. For you, you've been on the left-hand side, haven't you?
I've been on the left-hand side, and it seems like they've sort of crept over to me as the days progressed.
You're on the flyer though, mate, aren't you?
Apparently so. They're getting bigger.
Yeah.
They are getting bigger, and I think the best is still to come. I had one last night, didn't I, before you guys got here?
Yeah.
That was just on dark, so I've got a funny feeling the same thing is going to happen. And we've got a bit of bait out there now, and we know we're fishing on spots that have done bites, so...
Fingers crossed. It looks good, mate. I'm optimistic. I'm thinking that if throughout the course of the night, if not bite time in the morning, we'll have a few and hopefully some better ones. But before that, the most important thing, mate...
Food.
let's go and get a curry because I need some food, mate.
Let's
Should
do
we
that. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, mate, nice to see you. You know what I'm going to talk to you about today? I'm going to talk to you about salt, mate. I know pretty much limited information about salt, apart from it catches fish around springtime, pre-spawn, and everybody gets on it. But you are the fountain of all bait information, so talk to me about salt, why it's important and why it's so effective.
Well, it's always been about, hasn't it? They've always craved it. Like when you see them kicking up the clay and things after the minerals, and the salt is a mineral. I'm sure it's necessary in their diet. It's necessary in pretty much every diet, but like easily abused. Just like too much sugar, too much of everything is like not always good. So yeah, we've always had it in the scovet squid. When I first developed scovet squid, I sent it off for analysis. The analysis, what we was aiming for was what carp need in a fishing environment. That's a fishing lake with others bait, with natural foods going in and things like that. Everything what they'd want to eat, filling in some of the gaps. And when it come, the analysis come back, the salt was already in it, and it was just another tick on the big long list of ticks we got. You know, the salt's always been necessary. Salt pretty much goes into everything, but most things it goes in too much because it's an attractant. It goes into your foods. There's too much salt. You see your little charts on the back, and there's always fat is red, salt is red. Yeah. Too much fat, too much salt, because that's the things what we desire. And so carp do desire it, and fish and all animals do desire it. So it's going to be a great attractant. It's an attractant as well, you see, so because it dissolves into the water and it actually is easily for the carp to find.
I forgot what an education it is talking to you, mate. You do my head. Every time we do a podcast, I'm like, I just feel dumb. But it's brilliant and I'm learning, which is good. You said there that salt is an attractant. You said that there can be too much of it. You said a bit like us, we can ingest a bit too much and it can be sort of ill in terms of our health. For carp, salt, apart from actually eating it out of the clay or if we put it in, is there any other way that they ingest it or use it?
If it's dissolved into the water, they've got the ability to take it out of the water. So if you can't see that grain of salt on the bottom and it's dissolved into the water, I'm sure they can get it. They can get lots of nasty things from the water, so they should be able to get lots of nice things from the water. So yeah, their environment is different. Like if you imagine this room, it's full of water, that's their environment. Yeah. You know, it's totally, absolutely different. You know, that book's going to float off, the coffee's coming out, everything's going to go into the environment. So the environment underneath the water is totally different from above water.
And the actual salt itself, for them, you talked about having a level and trying to maintain that level in them. Is that level to help, like, I don't know, like just living function, or is that level more at certain times that they need?
When we did that analysis years ago on the scovet squid, it was before some of the systems have got on computers now. The salt level in the scovet squid is less than 1/3%. Okay. Yeah, I think it's about 0.28% or something like that. It's less than 1/3%, and it was a tick. It was a necessity. It was an aid. It was a plus on what the carp were looking for, what carp should be looking for to maintain good health. I just think that people need to be using it at the minimal levels, or just the attractor size sort of levels. You know, I cooked a load of particle up yesterday, and in my pans, I don't know what they'd hold, probably about 12, 15 kilos of particle. I only put about 80 to 100 grams of salt in. Okay. Didn't weigh it, just put it in with a scoop, the same salt as what we've got here. And that's enough. And if I want to put more salt in, say if I'm fishing just little PVA bags and I want to make me particle PVA friendly, add a little bit more salt. The salt stops the PVA melting, and it means you can fish sort of like almost single bags with particle. Yeah. So you add in a little bit more salt at that point. But like I wouldn't add a little bit more salt to my great big bucket. I wouldn't add that quantity of salt to my great big bucket of particle. Only enough, small amount pulled to one side just for your PVA bags. And
We've talked about this before. I've talked to you about salt, and what type of salt to use. There's millions of different salt. You go out to Asda and buy some table salt. You get some Malden sea salt. We've got some pink Himalayan rock salt here. We talked about applying salt on its own neat into a lake and the sort of, obviously the environmental benefits you've talked about, but also the sort of attraction to those carp because it's something they need. When you're doing that for you, what type of salt do you use? How much would you put out into a lake?
In a bay and in my particle a lot, I've just used normal table salt a lot.
Have you?
I do prefer the Himalayan salt. It's got a better mineral profile. So when you're making a bait, I don't really mind if it's just normal sea salt.
Right, okay.
You know, and that's what's been going in Scope Squid all these years. And it got that little tick on that box donkeys years ago. And like carp have not evolved as quick as what bait has. So we know it's still fine.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I don't get anal about that. But as an attraction, I think you always try and use the best, and the Himalayan sea salt is the best.
Applying it neat?
I have tipped it in neat.
Yeah.
I have tipped it in neat. I've used it just salt in PVA bags.
Right.
That works really, really good.
Just neat salt in a bag?
Yeah, no pre-offerings, no nothing, just the salt. That works well.
So here's one. You're fishing a lake. Let's take, for example, your place. Let's take Bayswater Day Ticket Lake. Everybody, before sort of spawning time, is using salt in their mix. Is it as effective if everybody else is using salt against if you're the only person
If
there
you're the
using
only one
salt?
using salt, it's an edge. If there's just one or two of you, it's fine. But if there's a lot of people using it, I don't think it's such a big edge. I know quite a few years ago we started selling salt. We did that because one or two of us was catching quite a lot of fish using quite a bit of salt. And then suddenly everybody starts using it and it wasn't quite as good. It's one of them, it's a weird thing, and it's a trend what will keep coming back as a force. Because I just, like I said earlier, I'm pretty certain it's necessary in their diet. I'm pretty certain, well, 100% certain, it's very attractive to them. Yeah. So there'll always be somebody, given the right situation, who does well using salt.
The other thing is pre-spawning. I'm talking sort of this time of year, spring, going into sort of before they spawn and spawning time. I've definitely used salt. I can honestly say in my angling, I haven't used salt as readily post-spawning. I don't know if that's just
I think
a
people
thing
get a little bit
done.
mixed up with this.
Yeah.
Because like, this is the time of year, like you say, pre-spawning. Well, they've just woke up. They're easier to catch. It's the silly season. It used to be the close season.
Yeah, of course it did.
Yeah, it's the silly season. So you put salt in, you're going to catch. You don't put salt in, you're probably going to catch. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, unless you can see it doing better. I know early season I've dropped quite a bit of salt into different places, and the carp have come and visited and they've cleaned the bottom and they've done everything. A tench have, you know, it is like, yeah, that's created an area where they go to a lot. You know, and I've seen other people do it and catch lots of fish off them spots. Then, like we touched on earlier, if everybody did it, it doesn't seem to have the same. It's not a negative effect. It just means that all the fish are not there. All the fish are there. That's the problem.
Essentially, salt, they need it. The environment is good for the environment, but they also need it because they need to keep levels at a certain level for bodily function. Obviously, they're going into, this time of year, going into spawning. You can use it on its own in an area, hopefully if nobody else is doing it, and that can concentrate the fish. If loads of other people are using it, it's obviously a bit of a diluted effect, but you can use things like you talked about, making things PVA friendly by putting it on, and also using little bags of it on a hook bait. Especially at this time of year, and it's effective. And use the best salt you can where you can.
Yeah. I used to grade that sieve, the crystals out, and the big ones, use them for catapulting.
He's all over the job, isn't you, Gal? It's too much for my brains. I need a notepad when I sit down and talk to you.
Soil sieves. You always need a lot of different soil sieves for preparing loads of different bait, and obviously soil.
I'm just going to come round yours, Gal, and take it.
Soil sieves make it simple a lot.
Classic. Gary, mate, we'll drink these coffees, mate. I've nearly drank all mine. Thank you so much for coming in and talking about salt, mate. That's definitely opened my eyes. Hopefully opened a lot of other eyes, but not the people that are fishing the same lakes as me.
No, we don't want them on it.
Cheers, mate. Take it easy.
Well, proof that putting that little bit of bait in worked. This is number one, slightly smaller one, of the 2 bites I've had just before first light. A cracking fish, in keeping with all the fish in here. Lovely, scaly, well-conditioned fish. Great fighting fish. And just after I've had a few stills, I'm going to slip him back, show a slightly better one. Oh, look at this broken. This is the one rock. Well, it might have been a little bit early when I estimated the size of this. It might not be bigger than the last one, but it's a beautiful broken linear. And the result of putting that bait in and a flurry of morning activity, I'm going to continue to work the spot. It's still early, there's plenty of time left. And hopefully, throughout the course of the day, we can pick up a few more. Either way, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time at Whelford Pools. Well, it's fair to say last night was quite eventful. I think I managed 4 bites during the night, 3 sort of smaller ones throughout the night, and then a slightly bigger one this morning, which we're going to have a look at in a minute. And yeah, the plan worked. I decided to introduce a little bit of bait. In addition to that, I also made up some small bags of hemp and rock salt. The rock salt making the hemp PVA friendly, and that seemed to do the trick. It just allowed a little parcel of bait around my hook bait. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did that in just a minute, but first we're going to get this fish out and have a look. And here she is, the biggest of 4 fish that I managed to catch her out the night and this morning. I'm pretty sure those small PVA bags of hemp made the difference and got me a few extra bites. So we're going to get this one back and I'll talk you through exactly how I went about making them. Now, rock salt is a great attractor in itself, especially at this time of year, sort of pre-spawning time. However, it also has one other real good benefit, and that is that when added to a little bit of the particle, in this instance the hemp, it suddenly becomes PVA friendly, and that in turn allows me to present a small parcel of feed bait around my hook bait. So it couldn't be any more simple to do. First, take your chosen particle. In this instance, I've been making small bags of hemp up. Add a good amount, and then literally take your rock salt, and don't be shy, add a good amount of it in there and get it all mixed up. It's important to take your time doing this. And then just like that, you've got instant PVA friendly hemp, which in turn allows you to present a small parcel of feed around your hook bait. Well, Hassan and I have been sitting here for most of the day, pondering why it hasn't happened. There's been no action since, I don't know, 6 AM this morning, and we've tried solid bags, we've tried zigs. We just wanted to end the session on a high, and it just wasn't happening. We'd kind of give up hope, but I felt I needed to do something, so I decided to give it a couple more dot spots of hemp over the spot in the hope of creating something, because the fish were still there clearly. I just needed to get them down on the bottom, and a bit of oily hemp with a little bit of salt. 2 spods, 2 dot spods. They started slicking up, and it's worked. Oh, he's the smallest one I've had all trip. Maybe the scaliers. Maybe the scaliers. But definitely the smallest. Oh, he is a belter, mate, isn't he? Well, Tommy, what are we going to capture in this one, mate? Yours is bigger than mine, mate. On this occasion, I think he might just be. I'll take that. He is beautiful though, this little one. It's been a difficult session in a lot of ways, mate. We've had to work pretty hard, but when I look back, we've had a lot of bites between. We have had a few bites. I think maybe lost a couple. I've lost a couple. Sorry about that. But you're all right, mate. The start of the day, we'd have definitely taken that.
A massive thanks, mate, to you. It's been brilliant to
has
have
been.
with you and have a
Been
good
really
time.
good, man.
A massive thanks to everybody at Whelford Pools. The boys have been very hospitable. And I
As
hope
always.
some of the fishing for a bite at a time tips that we've dispensed make it into your angling and you can catch yourself a few. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.